Hey, it's me, Unapologetically T, and as promised from a previous video I posted this week, I said I was going to give you a story time. So in the previous videos, I was talking about me and my daughter's relationship and how our relationship is getting better, our bond is getting better. So I decided that I felt like it's time for me to share my birthing story. So it's gonna be part pregnancy, part birthing, part after, post birth. So but I find so much strength in my birthing story. My birthing story is like the rest of my life. Is like it shows a strong woman who's used to doing it by herself. It really does. So all right, if you want to know more deeper about the traumatic stuff as far as my pregnancy and all that stuff, go check out How I Met Her Father. You can find all that mess in there. Definitely had a lot of trauma within the pregnancy in the beginning, up until I left. So but this one would be still trauma in this, but not as much as the beginning of the pregnancy. So I would just pick up from where I left him. So I think I left probably about like 2 or 3 months pregnant. So I left 2 or 3 months pregnant. I don't remember in the other video whether I disclosed like he had gave me. When I found out I was pregnant, like I found out like probably like a couple of weeks later. I don't know how much time, but it was shortly after I found out I was pregnant that he had gave me something. Which was curable. However, it was still heartbreaking. It was my first time ever catching something. So, person I trusted, first time catching something. So being pregnant, you know, like they wanted to make sure I was safe, the baby was safe, it was curable. And I remember like having a conversation with the girl. I don't know if I talked about that, but like she had a little weird reaction about it. Like when I told her he had gave me something, she was like, oh well, I did get an infection and it was from the toilet paper I was using, like because I'm allergic to this certain type of toilet paper, and I think it was like Charmin or something. And she was like, so that was like basically both of them was like telling on themselves to me, I felt like. And so I'm just like, oh, okay. So that's that. I don't know if I shared that, but we're gonna move on from these people because they do not get to live rent free in my head all day every day. So we're gonna focus on me and my daughter part. When I left, I went back home because me and him lived together. So I ended up moving back home. He ended up being locked up, and I think once he came home, he ended up going back to the girl he was cheating with, because I wouldn't take him back. So he wanted to come back to me, and I was like, nah, I'm good. All I got the energy to do is take care of this child. So we definitely, I feel like from that moment on of us breaking up, we were like oil and vinegar. Like we cannot get along. I felt like he wanted to get along, but like anything he did irritated the shit out of me because he was never doing what the fuck he was supposed to be doing. So anything else he did, it was just like it was like, what are you even calling me for? Like the baby can't talk. Like the baby's in my stomach. Like leave me a fuck alone. And he was locked up, I want to say most of my pregnancy. So other than him, my pregnancy was actually very good. So I walked I walked at least probably 5 miles a day while I was pregnant. So I was very healthy. I was still going to school. Was I working? I think I might have been working. I can't remember, but I think I might have. And I might have not. I might have just focused on school during the pregnancy, but I felt like I was working. But so yeah, so I would walk a lot during my pregnancy. I definitely I definitely was healthy. Like, I didn't have any hypertension, diabetes, any of those things. However, I did develop IBS, and I had like acid reflux, indigestion. But they was a lot of black people say, like, when the baby has a lot of hair, that's what it caused. And she did come out like a head full of hair. And my eating habits, I did not have any cravings besides I needed to have a Pepsi a day while I was pregnant with her because of the indigestion, and I felt like the Pepsi cut the acid. What are we doing? Why are you still messing with the dog? So, yeah, she wanted the dog. I will get back to the story. So, yeah, so craving wise, like, I didn't have any like cravings that I had to have, except for in the end. I used to like to eat French fries and ice cream. No, it wasn't French fries, it was chips and ice cream. It was a weird little combination. Because of the chips I liked and then the ice cream I liked. They didn't match. But it was like having something salt and savory. And okay. So, distractions in this house. We're having the last brouhaha in this house before we leave. But so, what was I saying? Oh, craving wise, that was like at the end of the pregnancy. I probably had that. I did like pickles, but I didn't eat pickles every day, so I wouldn't even call that a craving. I did have aversions. Seafood, could not do seafood. And it's weird because after having the baby, like, I still kind of had like a seafood aversion, but it was like way worse while I was pregnant. I could walk into a house and smell seafood cooking, and like, I gotta go. Where's the bathroom? So seafood was a no. Like, it didn't even need to be in a plate right in front of me. It was the smell alone was grotesque to me. So, and it's weird because lately I have been craving seafood, and I don't even like seafood anymore. Like, since I had the baby, like, I'm not a big seafood eater. I was never a big seafood eater, but I grew up, my mom loved crabs. Like, she loved blue crabs. So I grew up around seafood, shrimp, all that stuff, but like, I do not. As I got older and after I had the pregnancy, like, I did not like seafood. Definitely finding out that, like, they are the scavengers of the sea. Like, I don't like that type of seafood. I do like fish. My favorite would be expensive, like salmon. I do like tuna. Like, I will take tuna and make my own tuna fish salad. So, like, that was one of the things Dante used to like that I make. I would take fresh tuna and make tuna fish salad instead of using a can. So yeah, I will do fish, but I really don't like shell food as much. I have to be in the mood for it or crave it. But just to go to town on it any given Sunday, it ain't my thing. So I guess pregnancy definitely preluded to that. But during pregnancy, she wouldn't even let me have fish. Like, I could not even do fish, which is a good thing because there is certain fish that have levels of mercury in it that is detrimental to your baby. Also, if you haven't heard about the kitty litter, I think moms have. So, but people who are not moms probably have not heard about the bacteria. That's even if you're not pregnant. They tell pregnant women to watch out, but they should be telling everybody to watch out. So yeah, I ate very, very healthy. I loved fruits and vegetables. I was not a big meat eater while I was pregnant, and it showed on the baby when she got to the age to start eating solid foods. She was a vegetarian. But yeah, I ate very healthy. Also, like, certain lunch meats they want you to stay away from. Can't remember why, but yeah. But I ate very healthy. I mentioned in How I Met Her Dad how it took a while for my mom to get adjusted and accept that I was pregnant. Basically any adult that had knew me, like his mom, his adopted mom, she was a Christian woman, told me not to keep it. My stepdad told me it was going to ruin my future. Not it, but being pregnant and having a baby was going to ruin my future because I was in college. So I got a lot of negativity, but I decided to keep her. However, when I made the decision to keep her, it was solely based off of what I was going to do as a parent, not him, and not what anybody else was going to do for her. And I'm happy I did, because guess what? People are there for us, but it is on their own time and on their own, their own, system. So it's not like we have an active everyday person in our life that be like, yeah, they're gonna look after us. We don't have that. It would be nice if we did, but it has also shown me my strength. So pregnancy was pretty good and healthy. I did suffer from she would lay on my nerve in my leg, so I think that's sciatica. And so in the mornings, what I would have to do is make sure that I would sit up, because I had fallen out of the bed trying to get up and walk right after getting up from sleep. I had to sit up and wait a second. So usually I would keep crackers and a ginger ale or a Pepsi right by the bed in the morning, because if I tried to eat a breakfast or a heavy meal, it would come right back up. So I definitely I could not have a 4-course meal with her. I had to eat light, because heavy stuff would upset my stomach. Greasy stuff would upset my stomach. A lot of things would upset my stomach. And so, very, very finicky little baby eater. I found out I was pregnant spring semester. Finished up that semester, went through summer, went through fall, had her in fall semester. So, I don't know if I talked about how fall semester I took a full load, and I knew that I wanted to do a full load. I actually needed a class, and the teacher turned me down because she had just had a baby and felt like because she couldn't do it, or she didn't think it was healthy to do it, that she wasn't gonna give me an override to take her class. Her class was full, and she still had the occupancy to add I think 5 more seats and stuff. And so I reached out to her and told her what was going on, and she denied me just from the sense of me saying that I was pregnant. And I wanted to hurry up and take the class so that I could hurry up and graduate. And, she denied me because of her own limitations. So when people project what they can't do onto you, it's one thing to warn someone or to give them advice, but to all outright just block them from doing something that they actually want to do, we need to rethink that. So it just fueled my fire, and her class time fit my schedule more perfectly. However, I was like, you know what? I picked that 9 o'clock class, and I was like, I'm going to just take that 9 o'clock class. I'm happy I did, because guess what? I learned about professional campers. It was an econ class too, by the way. And I learned about professional campers and how they actually had things kind of figured out. And look at me going through the professional camper journey, because that's what my teacher called homeless people, professional campers. So I am going through the professional camper journey now. And so I have some little resources and tools in the back of my head from taking his section. So I'm happy she blocked me. And that's another thing. Sometimes when you get blocked, it's just something else out there for you. Even though she should have let me take that class because it better suited my needs, it was something else out there for me. So, yeah. So to get into it, it is now, I done carried her through all these months. I had my baby shower early because I was in school and I knew I was going to be busy. To put it in context, she was doing October. Midterms is during that time. Then you also have finals coming up in December. So yeah, I knew I was going to be definitely knee deep into stuff. So I definitely had her baby shower in the summer, which was pretty early traditionally for baby showers. Like, I think I was probably about like 6 months. Usually people have it about like 8 months. But I had mine early because I didn't feel like having to plan and do all that shit for people and do classes too. So we did that, and I did take classes during the summer. However, summer is way easier, and it's actually not as many classes that I would typically take during the fall and spring semester, so it was just a better situation for me. Her baby shower was really fun. It was friends and family there. So yeah, I think my favorite part of her baby shower was her cake. The cake is still so cute. My aunt does her cakes typically. Sometimes I do go to other people to get my cakes done because my aunt doesn't do fondant work. But if you're looking for buttercream cakes and, you know, cakes with frosting and stuff, my aunt not only knows how to make cakes look great, they taste freaking divine, and that's actually the name of her cakes. So yeah, but that was one of my favorite parts of the baby shower was her cake. And so we fast forward to October. Okay, that's another thing too. I carried her well. So in person, I would get compliments about how, you know, good I was carrying her. Like, people ask me, like, how many months are you? And I would tell them, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, you look like you're about like 3 months pregnant. And I don't really think I started to show until I was about like 5 months pregnant, that I was pregnant. And even showing still, it was kind of like, because I'm a thicker girl, like you could kind of think like maybe I ate too much. And then it was like this overnight process when it was about like month 8 or 9, and it was like bloop, and it was like, oh my god, like I remember, like, cause me and my best friend, we went to the same campus, and like one day she just saw me walking, and she was like, oh my gosh, it's like, you really pregnant now. And I'm like, yeah, it's like I just woke up, and it was like I'm for real pregnant. And so I definitely carried her well. I would like to attribute that to, you know, my hips, my jeans. And I definitely, like I said, I walked a lot with her. So I walked a whole lot with her, which I enjoyed. I love walking. That's one thing. I'm fat, but I love walking. I do not like running. My stamina for running, like, the cardio sucks. But for walking, like pacing, like, I can do that. So October comes. I'm in classes. She comes a week early. So I ain't gonna say first time mom, but first time having a full pregnancy. So don't know what to expect besides what I've read. That's another thing. Found out I was pregnant. I was one of those women who engulfed myself into reading everything it was about being pregnant. That's why I wanted to have natural childbirth. Because if you don't realize it or not, and this is not to anyone who chooses not to have natural childbirth, this is just saying, you know, informative wise, that anything that you intake, you're giving to your baby. So when I thought about epidural, I thought about I'm giving my baby the same paralyzing medications that I'm taking. And then I've also, you know, my mom had situations where she had an epidural and she still could feel pain. And it didn't even kick in to after she had the baby. And then she had trouble with walking after. So, like, it's just, it's sad effects to anything you do. So I tried to go the most natural route. I even remember, like, to vaccinate or not to vaccinate. The only reason I chose to vaccinate, because it was like, well, if I don't get her vaccinated, then she will be in danger of catching the said things. However, now I'm not, but we ain't gonna go into that because I might get flagged. So, but yeah, I just engulfed myself. I watched a lot of birthing stories. Like, oh my God, if you was like back then a TLC fan, you know, the baby stories. I watched that shit faithfully. And like I said, I read books. I would actually watch real childbirth too, like where women were like pushing them out there. Woo-ha, since I'm about to do this, I'm like, I want to see the real deal. Because on TLC, they don't show you that. So, yeah. So, I also did not have a doctor. I had a midwife, which is cheaper. However, I still gave birth in the hospital. VCU at the time, MCV and VCU had at the time a program for mothers who wanted to have natural childbirth and have a midwife experience. It was a lot cheaper than giving birth with the epidural and all that stuff, or just with the doctor. And also to that program, so not only did you get your regular visits for your baby, you also got these group meetings with other women who wanted to do natural childbirth. So I had like kind of like a sisterhood. I would say like I didn't connect much with different people in the groups. So it wasn't like a sisterhood group. It was definitely, I think I was like one of the youngest in the group. Everybody else had been mothers just about before. So, like, I just kind of felt left out. So, yeah, it was definitely different. But I think a lot of the women that were in that group, I can't pass judgment, but it seemed like they were more there, too, for the, because in that program, like, you got gift cards and you did, like, studies and stuff, because MCV is big on studies and stuff like that. So, yeah, like they were big on like HIV testing, and I was already big on getting tested and all that stuff. That's how I knew what the fuck he had done. It was just a really cool program. I hope that they still have it because it was a really good program. And it was giving out a lot of good information. Like it was encouraging breastfeeding, which, you know, I feel like during that time, like, not a lot. Like, I think women were going more to it, but I think more white women were going more to trying to have more natural pregnancies. In my community and the people I was around, like, I didn't hear a whole bunch about natural pregnancies or breastfeeding and all that stuff. But once I started learning stuff, I was like, you know what? I engulfed myself. So I knew I wanted to have natural childbirth, and I knew I wanted to breastfeed. So October comes. I was taking this childhood development course, like kind of like a child psych course, because I was going into teaching, so I needed that course. And that class was a 7 to 9:40 p.m. class. So that day, I think I had another class earlier that day, and I came back home, took me a nap. I woke up wet. I woke up in a bed full of wetness. Me being in denial, I'm like, I think I just peed on myself. Hadn't peed on myself my whole pregnancy. However, I'm just thinking like, I'm not thinking that I'm going into labor. So I'm like, oh, I think I just wet the bed. So I'm casually, like, not even panic. I'm just casually, like, taking the sheets off the bed, going downstairs to the basement, throwing it in the washing machine, and take me a shower, clean off the mattress best I can, and, you know, like, let that shit air dry while I go to class. So, I definitely, that was red flag number one. That big puddle. That was the big wetness. That was red flag number one. Oh, I even told myself too, because it didn't smell like pee. So I told myself that I had sweated in my sleep. I had sweated so much in my sleep, but it was too much liquid for me to sweat. Like that was a crazy dream if I sweated that much. So I don't know. I was just in denial land. I would do that. I would do that real quick just so I could be okay. So I definitely, got myself together, went to class. I remember having the class with one of my friends, and we had the class. I remember us talking that night, and then walking to our cars and coming back home. I came back home. My mom was not feeling well. She was really sick, and I had told her for real that night, like, to go to the hospital, but she didn't. So then she was like, she was fine, she gonna be okay. And so we go to sleep. I wake up early in the morning. She in the bathroom, and she's just not doing well. So I'm like, Mom, go to the hospital. And I'm like, I could take you if you need me to. And she was like, no. My mom took care of my uncle. So my uncle had dementia. So she took care of my uncle since I was in 8th grade of middle school. So I was now in college. So it had been a very long time. So she had been caring for him for a very long time. And she treated him just like he was one of her kids. Like, she did not believe in leaving him by himself. And so she was like, no, I'll take myself. You stay here with him. It was not unusual for me to watch him if she needed to do something, or like if she had to work or something. Like, we would exchange watching him. I could not give him baths and all that stuff because he was incontinent. He had got to a point, like, he lived a long time through his dementia. So he was incontinent. You had to tell him to eat. So, like, you couldn't just put food in front of him. Like, you had to tell him to eat it. Sometimes you'd even have to try to feed it to him so that he could know it was, food to eat. You would have to change his diapers and all that stuff. Like, but I drew the line at, like, I'm not washing him. Like, I can help him pull up his diaper. I can help him take it off. But I'm not washing him. It's just not me. I'm sorry. Like, that's all you, Ma. But yeah, so she was like, just stay here, watch your uncle. I did not tell her what I was going through on my end. I was so worried about her. I was just like, but I'll be okay. So I was like, okay, I'll stay here with him, but I do have a class that I need to go to, at 9, because this was like early in the morning before then. So I was like, I do have a class, but it's only 50 minutes. So she was like, all right, that would be okay. Maybe I'll be out by then. And my stepdad, they had broke up, but my stepdad was still living with us. He lived in the basement for a little bit. So yeah, so he had to work, so it was like on me to look after him. And I didn't know at the time that I was in labor. So I remember, like, all that morning just feeling like restless. Like, I felt tired, but when I would try to go to sleep, I would wake up instantly. Or I just didn't feel like, I was okay. Like, I felt like if I was standing up, I needed to be sitting down. I felt hungry, but when I would eat, I would throw up. Like, I just felt out of balance before I felt any pain. So I just felt out of whack and out of balance before any pain even started to come up. Then these little tiny little cramps started to happen. And because they were so tiny and not painful, they were more like discomfort. I didn't pay any mind to them. I just thought, like, maybe it's the stress and, because I'm worried about my mom. So I ended up saying, I'm not going to go to the class. I'm just going to focus on what I got going on at home. And, I could catch up with the class later. So, I think it was like kind of later in the afternoon. I went to go check on, like, maybe like around 12. I went to go check on my mom at the hospital. We lived in the north side. The hospital was like closer to the east end, like downtown Richmond. So I go to check on my mom. While I'm checking on my mom, and no, this is probably my first visit. So my first visit, I go to check on my mom. She's in the hallway. So, like, if you know MCV, then you know that they are the #1 trauma hospital. So, like, they definitely, like, if you ain't got a gunshot wound or something, like, you typically ain't getting no room in the emergency room. So they had her on the outside of the like in the hallways on the bed. And so she they had said they was gonna admit her, but they was like they didn't have a room yet, so they was waiting for a room to become available, and told her, you know, like it should become available, you know, like they gave her different times and it got longer and longer each time. So she was like, don't worry about me, I'm in the hospital, I'm fine, go check on him. So I go back to the house to check on him. I can't get in touch with my stepdad, you know, like, so I'm, you know, checking on him. Then I go back probably later that afternoon to go check on her. So I think that's when, you know, they told me again, like, okay, well, she'll have a room by like 11 p.m., 12 o'clock a.m. So I was like, okay, I'm going through labor at this point. However, I don't know. So I go to use the bathroom while I'm in there, because that's what I kept doing. I kept using the bathroom frequently, still in denial. I go to use the bathroom. Never seen no shit like that in my life. Go describe it to my mom. And she was like, oh, that's your mucus plug. And I'm like, for real? Like, that's what it looked like? I thought like I had maybe an infection or something. And so she was like, that sounds like that's your mucus plug. Like, you're in active labor if your mucus plug came out. Imagine I ain't told her about the bed situation. So another thing that I completely outright ignored that my mom caught was my stomach was physically, like, when it would contract, like those little uncomfortable pains I would feel, you could physically see it. Like, so you could physically see my stomach contracting. I typically wore shirts that were tight. Not tight, but like I wore shirts that like you could see it was close to my skin. So it wasn't tight like it was uncomfortable, but it was like you could see my print of my belly. And so it just looked like the aliens. Like, that's what it looked like, the aliens. Every time I had a contraction, it looked like the aliens in my stomach. And my mom was like, oh my gosh, like, you're in labor. And I'm like, no, I'm not, Mom. Like, you know, like, I'm not in labor. And she was like, yes, you are. Like, and she was like, you need to walk over there and let them know like you're in labor. And so I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere until you get your room. But then she convinced me to go back and check on my uncle. Went back, check on my uncle. He was fine. I don't think I still couldn't find my stepdad, but I think when I went to go back to check on my uncle, my brother and my mom had talked, which my brother lived in Norfolk at the time, and I don't know what the hell my mom told him, but me and my brother ended up getting into it because he ended up fussing at me like, I don't know, this is how he came at me. He was like, I don't know what's going on down there, but y'all need to help Mom out more. But I'm starting to think about it like more of he probably found out she was in the hospital and probably just associated that with we were not helping her. Sir, you the one that don't live here. Like, sir, I'm gonna need you not to do that. And I'm in labor. I don't know I'm in labor. So we do get into it. Like, we do. I cuss him out like, what the fuck? Who the fuck is you talking to? Like, you know. And so yeah, we had that whole spiel. Like, we went at it, and I'm just like, the nerve of people. Like, I'm in this motherfucker going through pains, driving back and forth to the hospital, checking on a sick person, and you gonna still try to say I'm not doing enough? So I think maybe then, I think once I got to the house and stayed with my uncle for a little bit, my stepdad ended up coming home, and so that meant somebody was gonna be there with my uncle. And so I went back to the hospital with my mom, and that's when she was just like, you know what, go check yourself into the hospital. And I was like, you know, I'm not going anywhere until you get a room. So they ended up giving her a room around 12 o'clock. I go, like she told me to the 5th floor and go check myself in to the maternity ward. So I remember intake, she was like, how far apart are your contractions? And I'm telling her like they're 2 to 3 minutes apart. So she's like, it's no way. And she was a little black bitch too. I'm sorry to say it like that, but I hate black women and how we treat each other. Like, I hate that shit. Like, she literally tried to tell me what I was feeling. And white women have done it to me too, so all y'all can get it. I was just giving that a special for her because I was like, lady, you supposed to be on my side here. But I guess she gets so many people that she lost her empathy in her job to actually know that, like, all of us are different and the way we deal with pain is different. So she literally telling me, so I just had a hostile birthing story because it's like, oh, y'all coming for me today, huh? She literally telling me like, you would be in here hollering and screaming if your contractions was 2 to 3 minutes apart and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. They gonna send you home. And I'm like, okay. And I'm just looking at her as evil as the fuck I can because I'm biting my tongue so I don't cuss her out. I already cussed my brother out. I'm like, this bitch about to get cussed out too, but they gonna put me out of the hospital when I cuss her out because she ain't family. So so then I definitely was like, okay. And so we go back there, and guess how many centimeters I was dilated? I was already halfway through the laboring process. I was 5 centimeters dilated. They took me in immediately. I had planned to have a water birth. It is something that I always wanted once I started doing my research. And however, for me, the water actually slowed down my contractions. So when that happened, my contractions slowed down about 7 centimeters. So when that happened, my midwife was like, you know, we need to get the baby out. And because my water had broke already previously, you know, that night. And it has started to, the sac has started to fill up again. And, you know, my child was, I think had like I think she had a bowel movement. So like it was, we needed to get her out. So she was telling me that I could take Pitocin. So when I say I had a natural childbirth, I did actually have the hormone Pitocin given to me. So that takes away from some of my naturalness. But I would like to say that I was doing fine before they gave me that fucking hormone, which Pitocin is definitely naturally produced in our bodies, and it definitely helps us with the contractions. When they gave me, whether it was synthetic or what, I don't know how they obtained that shit, but when they gave it to me, that's when all hell broke loose, and I felt the pain that women talk about in the laboring process. I had an out-of-body experience. I saw myself jumping out of the window that doesn't open up. I saw myself trying to unalive myself with a weapon. Like, I saw so many different things while laboring my last 3 centimeters. Which sounds like maybe that was a quick process. However, when you're going through that much pain, it does not seem quick at all. It seems like an eternity. I labored, it felt like forever to me. So this was probably, I checked in at 12. This was probably about like maybe like 5 o'clock or something. No, because I had her at 6 something. So I would say this was probably like 3 o'clock when I started to get these like intense pains. I would sit in the shower. I was naked at first. And mind you, I didn't have anybody there but my midwife and an EMT lady who needed to get credit hours. So she asked me could she come in and watch, and I'm like, sure. The more the merrier, because right now I ain't nobody fucking here. So and her dad was out, and I had made a conscious decision, like, he was too stressful for me. I did not want him a part of my birthing process. Yeah, I just didn't, and it was my selfish choice. But I just felt like, who wants to be stressed the fuck out in labor and delivery? No one. So I did not tell him about, me being in labor, which I'll get back to once we get past certain parts. But yeah, so it was parts that I spent laboring in the shower. I was on the birthing ball. I was trying to do everything to distract me from what the hell was going on. Nothing in this world prepares you for the fucking pain that you gotta endure giving childbirth. To give childbirth, to have the pregnancy and get to the point of childbirth is magical in itself. To actually push the baby out is pure magic. Pure magic. And there's some women who do not make it home. There's some babies that don't make it home. So if you made it, pure magical, pure miracle, all of it. Like, if people don't believe in magic, I always tell people to think about pregnancies. Just think about a pregnancy. It starts with a sperm and an egg, and then voila. Like, if you don't believe in magic, then think about that. That is definitely, God's work right there. So, I went through it. So by the time I started to feel those real crazy pains that I cannot describe, I've been burned alive. And that I always said, the burned alive, I think because it happened at such a young age, that will always be number one pain threshold. I would never want to be burned alive ever again in any capacity. Even when I burn myself on the stove, it gives me flashbacks. It hurts. It's painful. It reminds me of being burned. So, but it's like only a teensy-wincy bit of pain compared to what I went through. Childbirth is right there next to it. Childbirth is right there next to it. Then there's tooth pain. So those are my 3 pain ones. That definitely, like, I'm just like, I done been cut. Like, I done been a lot of things. Like, and yeah, those 3 are bad. So childbirth is my number 2. So when I was finally about to, like, push, because I was scared to push. So, like, I thought the contractions was bad. So I was thinking, like, pushing this girl out my woo-ha, like, that's definitely gonna be bad. But that actually was the easiest part. So I was able to push her out in 2 or 3 pushes. I will let you know, my baby was a small baby. I told y'all, I walked, I ate right with her. She was 5 pounds, 13 ounces. She was not a preemie. She was only a week early. She was 19.5 inches long. And, so I definitely had a smaller baby. However, them contraction parts don't matter. Like, that shit ain't got nothing to do with the size of the baby. Now, pushing her out the hole, like, that had something to do with the size of the baby. So when I did that part, I did feel burning when I did that, which I later found out was because I had a small tear, which I didn't have a tear as bad as some women, which some women will need to get stitches when they get certain tears and stuff. Women go through so lot. Give me all these babies. Stop mistreating women. Stop just pumping her full of babies, and you don't want to be there to take care of them, because we go through a lot. So yeah, her godmama, ironically enough, comes in right when I'm pushing. So she comes in, 1 contact, 1 sock on, 1 shoe on. Like, she's just coming in like she done hopped out of the bed, because I did text her and let her know, like, I was in labor. But when she saw it, it was like in the wee hours of the morning. So, like, she rushed in and was there to witness her being born. My stepdad, he did come in after, like, just a little bit after she was born. So he got to see her second for his family members. So let's see. Another thing, so once you had a baby, you have to have the afterbirth. Nobody tells you about that. And like I have read a lot and I didn't even get to that part. So I was thinking like, you know, like that would just come out. And no, so you have to go through a second birthing part where they push on your stomach and you have to push out that goddamn placenta. What I will say is the placenta is very valuable. So if you can, you know, keep yours. I will say if I was to have a baby again, I would want to have my baby at home and as natural as possible. However, don't be naive. If there are complications, please seek medical treatment in a hospital. But I do feel like, you know, having her natural was an amazing experience. Gave me so much strength and power. Like I feel I attribute that to me finishing school and having 3 degrees. Was me going through that experience. Like I felt on top of the world and like there was nothing I couldn't do. Like literally nothing I couldn't do, and I still feel like that sometimes. Like there is nothing I can't do. I pushed out a baby. I will say that this is not talked about much, but once I did give birth to my baby, I did not connect with her right away. I went through this extreme pain, like out of this world pain, and when they throw them on you, it's your connecting part. However, I really, like, I didn't say it, but I felt like, get this shit off of me. Like, it shit just caused all this pain. Like, I don't want it on me. I didn't care how, you know, like I heard her cry and I was like, okay, she'll laugh, and that was all I cared about. But I didn't want her, and that's fucked up. It sounds bad, but I had been through so much. It was so much trauma. Like no one knows. And some women automatically connect with their babies. And then there's women like me who do not connect right away. However, I did, once we got into the elevators to go to an actual room, because you have your birthing place and then you have where you're going to be housed at. When we were in the elevator and they gave her to me, I was in a wheelchair and hold her, and I just finally looked down at her and took a real good look at her and was like, oh my gosh, this is mine. Like, I pushed her out and she's, you know, she's mine. Like, this baby, this is what's been cooking in me, and this is who I've been talking to and reading to and singing to, and that's when it connected for me. I will say this, when I was, after I gave birth, the doctor that was on call, her best friend was actually in the next room, and she was giving birth. However, she was doing it with the epidural, and she heard me, the crazy lady who was having the out-of-body experience, because I didn't even know I was screaming, but I was praying to, like, Allah, Buddha, Jesus. Like, I was praying to all of them. Like, that's when I was like, okay, polytheism, like, well, one of y'all gonna pick me up and save my life, because it was intense. I even told God, I said, God, if you get me through this, I'll never have sex again. I don't know if I cursed myself because I didn't have sex again, but, you know, like, I've not had a child since. So I don't know if he was like, oh, okay, since you laughed. But my mom said, like, every woman says that when she's giving birth, like, she won't do it again. And she was like, she finds it very crazy that us as women will forget the pain that we went through and have other ones. And I was like, yeah, it is. It's insane. But I will say, for me, that experience was birth control for at least 3 years. Like, it was birth control for me. Like, it was like, I don't need, like, because when I left him, I ain't had sex with nobody while I was pregnant. Then after I had her, I ain't had sex with nobody. So, like, I had a good 2 years of celibacy, and then a good year of protection. So yeah, so that's insane. She said her friend said she was scared to death to have her baby because she heard me screaming and she thought it was going to be like that for her. And she was like, no, she had natural childbirth, you getting an epidural. I will say this, I wanted to get an epidural, but when I wanted to get it, it was at the point where I was the 7 centimeters dilated, and I had taken the Pitocin, and the doctor said I couldn't get it because I wouldn't be able to sit still enough, because that's how much pain I was. I couldn't sit still. And he said because I couldn't sit still, it would be too dangerous, and I couldn't have it. So it was no take backs. So I literally, not gonna lie to y'all, like in the end, I was like, you can shoot me up with the drugs. Little baby about to get high because I need it. Like, but it was too late. So yeah, I did that. But yeah. I had, so since I stated back in the beginning of the video, like MCV had a program where you could take, get a midwife and all that stuff. So also they had it where your baby could stay in the room with you, or it could go into the nursery. So I opted for my baby to stay with me, since I decided I wanted to breastfeed and all that stuff. And I'm just a new mom. I wanted my baby with me. So my baby stayed in the room with me. She only would go out when they had to do stuff with her. I was in the hospital doing homework that same morning, after I gave birth. I had her, it was about 6:48. It wasn't about, it was exact. I'll never forget it. 6:48 on Wednesday. Yeah, so yeah, I was doing homework on my laptop for that econ class that I had missed. So we had like online modules that we used to have to do. So I was doing that, and it was only like homework, but homework is a part of your grade. That's how I used to get high grades, where you can fuck up on a test, but if you do everything else in the class and then you do better on the next test, like it wouldn't really matter that you fucked up on the first one. So that's getting used to how the professor do stuff. Like I never tripped if I got a bad grade on my first test, because I'm like, I'm gonna do everything else, plus I'm gonna get better at how I take your test, because now I know it. So but yeah, I was in there doing homework. I did start to feel like it was, so when I told you I was in the elevator and I connected with my baby, like I started to immediately feel guilty that I had opted him out of that opportunity. Because I felt like this was such a, like it was a phenomenal bonding time for me, where I realized like this is mine, like this is my baby. So I felt like I had cheated him out of that opportunity. I immediately, once I got settled in the room, let him know like I had the baby, he could come see her, because I wasn't gonna allow him to come see her in the hospital. But I was like, that's not putting her first. This is not about me, this is about her. So I did let him know, she was there. That's when, the girl he was cheating with, which he ended up getting her pregnant too. So, eventually, and doing her the same exact way, but worse, because I left him, he ended up leaving her. So, and I'm not gonna laugh at that because it's an innocent child involved in that part. So, but I definitely, got a text message, responded back from her and not him, and it basically said he don't feel like coming. He don't feel like coming today. And I'm just like, oh, okay. See, this is why, bitch. This is why you didn't want him in this process, because you gotta go through shit like that. Man, they have a fucking job. They work in a pass shop. What you mean he can't come? Like, nigga, your baby here. So I was just like, you know what? She might have thought I was being funny, but I was like, you know what? Never bad. We leave tomorrow. No, I didn't say we leave tomorrow. I was like, tell him don't worry about it. He don't have to come tomorrow. But I didn't explain why. So the reason he didn't have to come tomorrow was because I had natural childbirth and I only had to stay in the hospital one day, so he didn't have to come the next day because I wasn't going to be there. And so I just let her know that without the explanation. However, I remember bawling my eyes out. I remember the nurse coming in and she was like, what's wrong? And I told her what happened, and she was like, you know what? I can tell you're a strong woman. You sitting here, you doing your homework, and